Hello and welcome into the Banged Up Podcast. Lee here with the IDP show, and congrats on making it to week 2. Plenty of big name players to get injured in week 1, so let's talk about that. We're going to start off on IR. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers, New York Jets, going down with an Achilles tear, and can you think of a worse way for a team to start the season? There was so much hype surrounding this team with Rodgers in town, and I just feel like there's no bigger gut punch than A-Rod going down on the 4th play of the game, which is absolutely brutal. One thing that I thought was interesting is that Rodgers had to play 65% of the snaps, and the Packers would get that first-round pick from the Jets. He played a total of 3 snaps there. Conditionally, it turns into a second. Rodgers did have some weird pain medication-induced comments on the Pat McAfee show that suggest he wants to return in 2024, which I don't think is completely out of the question. Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins also going down with an Achilles tear, and I genuinely feel really bad about this one. My man has been fighting for so long to get back onto the field and contribute, going all the way back to his torn ACL and all of the problems after that. Again, with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think it's out of the question that these two could be back in time for week 1 of the 2024 season. Lastly, on offense, Cooper Kupp, Rams wide receiver, dealing with a hamstring injury. He is on IR. The hope is that he's back by week 5, which I think will be interesting to see what that target share looks like between him and the waiver wire baddie Puka Nacua. Over on defense, the only one on IR, cornerback for the Chicago Bears, Kyler Gordon, going with a hand injury. He underwent surgery on his broken hand on Thursday. The hope is that he returns once his stint on the IR is over, maybe around week 6. Looking at the out on offense, we'll start off with Broncos tight end Greg Dulcich, Greg, my boy Greg, dealing with a hamstring issue. He's been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Washington Commanders after not practicing all week. Raiders wide receiver Jakobi Meyers, after a big game, is still in concussion protocol, was not cleared ahead of Sunday's game against the Bills. Doubtful for this week, couple big name players, Austin Ekeler, Chargers running back, dealing with what sounds like a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out this week with the potential to miss multiple weeks, as we know with high ankle sprains. We see that those tend to keep players out between 3 to 6 weeks, depending on if they need surgery or not. Or Steelers wide receiver Diontae Johnson, that awful hamstring injury, which he immediately clutched. A lot of players, when they have a hamstring injury, will kind of pull up, hobble off the field, but he went down and grabbed that thing immediately. So he's not going to be back next week. Probably won't be back the week after. Definitely is going to be a multi-week injury. Could potentially see some time on IR depending how serious it is. I anticipate the earliest return could be week 5. Looking at the doubtfuls on defense, again, all of these players very highly likely not going to play. So look for some replacements for these guys. Donovan Wilson, safety for the Dallas Cowboys, dealing with a calf issue. He got in a couple limited practices, so could potentially see week 3. Daiyan Henley, linebacker for the Chargers, dealing with a hamstring issue. Listed as doubtful. He missed practice on Wednesday, got in a couple limited sessions, so we could see his return week 3. Another Chargers linebacker dealing with a hamstring issue is Eric Kendricks. It is a hamstring/personal issue. He didn't practice all week, so anticipate him being out for Sunday's game against the Titans. Lastly on defense, and lastly doubtful for the defense, Azeez Ojulari, Giants edge rusher, dealing with a hamstring issue still. I feel like I say this every week. Plan to be without Azeez Ojulari. Let's head over to the questionables on offense. We'll start off with Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. Just popped up on the injury report Friday due to a right shoulder injury. He should be good for Sunday's game against the Colts. There's nothing to suggest out there that he is in danger of missing. Packers running back Aaron Jones, dealing with a hamstring issue. He exited early after having a monster game last week. He hasn't practiced yet this week with that hamstring injury. I don't think he plays. However, he could make a push to be on the field. If he does play, I'm expecting a pretty significant decrease in snaps with a big uptick for A.J. Dillon. It's just a matter of whether you want to take that shot at some goal line work or a big play if he does get the ball. However, when it comes to the Packers' conservativeness, when it comes to players being injured, I'm going to anticipate that we're not going to see Aaron Jones on the field for week 2. Breece Hall, the boy, running back for the Jets, dealing with a knee issue. Full practice on Friday, so let that man cook. No pun intended. DJ Chark, Carolina Panthers wide receiver, dealing with that hamstring issue, has been limited all week in practice, but we will likely see a return to action for week 2. I wouldn't toss him in just yet. I give him a week to ease back into it off that hammy, as he could see limited snaps and a slight hit in production. Cowboys wide receiver Brandin Cooks dealing with a MCL sprain. I don't plan on seeing Cooks on the field for week 2 after missing practice all week. Anticipate this being a multi-week absence. Packers wide receiver Christian Watson, likely a game time decision, but I'm not going to start him regardless of if he plays or not. He missed 2 practices this week and will likely be on a snap count, especially with Dobbs emerging as a legitimate threat. The waiver wire gem Puka Nacua, the baby boy from BYU, dealing with an oblique issue. He logged in a limited session on Friday after missing practice practice on Thursday. I expect him to play. You could see a slight hit in his performance, but if he gets 15 targets again, he should be just fine in PPR or half PPR leagues. Tennessee Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins dealing with the ankle issue, looking to be a mild high ankle sprain. I think like an Austin Ekeler type situation, but a little bit less. I think there's a high chance he sits this week. However, Hop is known for sitting and then deciding he wants to play. Again, I don't think he goes, but if he does, I'm expecting a limited snap count with a decent hit to his productivity. Ravens tight end Mark Andrews dealing with the quadricep issue, faked us all out last week by being limited and then deciding that he wanted to miss week 1. Could have been a result of who they were playing, but he knocked out a full practice on Friday, so be prepared to send Mark Andrews and start him for week 2. Lastly, on offense, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce missed week 1 after hyperextending his knee, but Mr. Taylor Swift is in good spirits. He was even messing with the media and hit him with the surprise twerk after faking a limp. Chiefs have come out and said both Kelce and Chris Jones will make their debut for the 2023 season, and I don't see this impacting his play much at all. Lastly, just a few questionables on defense. Joseph Osai, edge rusher for the Bengals, still dealing with the ankle injury. He was questionable this week after missing week 1. The good news is that he's making progress, but it still doesn't sound like he'll be valuable fantasy-wise, even if he does make his return this week. Chargers edge rusher Joey Bosa dealing with a hamstring issue. He's missed 2 practices in a row this week before logging in a limited session on Friday. This does make me doubtful we see him in week 2. I would look for a replacement because even if he does play, I think that hamstring is really going to be a limiting factor for him. Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips tweaked his back during practice on Friday. This one's tricky because it just happened. You have to make a decision to keep him in for Sunday Night Football. I think he plays, but I won't fault you for sitting him and going for the safer option. Packers linebacker Quay Walker in concussion protocol. He will look to clear it ahead of Sunday's game. The concussion protocol is hard to predict, so my suggestion is to just keep a close eye on it and have a backup ready if he's unable to go. Rams linebacker Ernest Jones dealing with an illness. This popped up on Friday, and at this point it sounds like week 2 is in doubt, so be prepared to be without Ernest Jones. And lastly, Arizona Cardinals safety Budda Baker dealing with a hamstring issue that popped up on Friday. So far, there's nothing to suggest that he's in danger of missing week 2, but I would monitor the situation for Sunday. That's all I've got for you this week. Best of luck heading into your week 2 matchups. Be sure to follow the boys at the IDP Show on Twitter and subscribe to the Substack to get all of your IDP needs. Again, thank you all for jumping in, and I'll see you right back here in week 3.